welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be showing you some cards that I made for the Craft Essentials series. It's number 133 Memory Box magazine. And in the magazine you get this really beautiful paper pack. So this normally comes in the centre of the magazine, and I actually think this one is really beautiful on this. I think it's got so many uses for it. I mean, look at that, that's really gorgeous. And then we start again. So you get 2 of each sheet, and then you get this lovely embossing folder. You get these stamps. So my stamps actually aren't on here, but I put this here to show you what they're like, because I'm going to be using these stamps. And then you've got this lovely die set. So there's the border with the heart, there's the heart, so it's like a patterned heart frame, and you've also got this butterfly. So it's really beautiful. But what I've been asked to do is to use the flowers to create some cards. So I'm going to be using these flower stamps. So there's loads and loads more that you can do with this. I think it's really reasonably priced for how much you get in it. Just have a look at the link below for links to find it yourself. So for the first card I'm going to make, I've got a 5-inch square card blank. So you see the grid lines on my mat. So I'm going to line up my card with the grid lines. And my grid lines are in centimetres. So I'm going to do a line that is 2 centimetres from the top. And then you can see I'm lining my ruler up at both the top and the bottom to make sure I've got a nice straight line down the page. I'm doing it slightly oversized, so I'm going to rub it out at the end. And then I'm just lining it up in this corner too, so that I can do 2 centimetres from the other sides. So I'm just doing nice light marks because I'm going to rub it out afterwards. So then I'm going to use my We Are Memory Keepers precision press. I'll have to look to see if they still do this. If they do, then I'll link it below. But any stamp positioning tool will do. I'm just using it because I've got a lot of stamping to do, and if I mess up, if I partially stamp or anything like that, then I want to be able to put it down again in the same place and not ruin all my hard work. So I'm going to line this up in the middle. And then with new stamps, I like to add on a bit of Versamark pad before I put on my Memento black ink, and that helps it ink up a bit more nicely. Photopolymer stamps, they sometimes take a few goes to stamp really nicely. So there we go, I've got my birthday wishes in the middle. And then I'm going to use some of the flowers around the outside. So you can see the stem's not quite as black as I'd like it, so I'm just going to ink that up again and pull it down again. So then I've got some of the Tonic Nouveau markers. So I've got Pink Taffy, Sweet Blossom, Dragon Fruit, Spectra Green, Pillow Mint, Natural Patina, and this Blueprint. I'm going to colour my flowers using those. And these are alcohol markers. They have a chisel nib and this finer chisel nib. They don't have a brush nib, which some alcohol markers do have. So I tend to use this finer nib. I would very rarely use the chisel nib. These are on the cheaper end of the alcohol marker scale, which is why I like using them for things like this, where I don't need anything fancy. They're a really good place to start because things like your Copics are super expensive. So it's nice to start with something like this. See if you like the alcohol markers, and then if you do, you can always kind of, if you get really into it and you want to do lots of kind of fine pen work, then you can always add different types to your collection. But I always think it's worth trying some of the less expensive ones first, just to make sure that you like them before you invest like hundreds of pounds in some. And so then we've just got this cute one layer card with a very simple border around. Looks really lovely. Obviously need to rub out those marks, but I only have a child's rubber on hand at the moment, so I'm not going to ruin my work doing that. And I'm just going to finish off by adding a few gemstones around. These are old Stampin' Up ones, but you could add whatever you've got in your stash. So that's our first card finished. So for my second card that I'm going to create with these stamps, I've got an A6 card, so that's 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/8 inches. I've scored and folded that in half. And I've used some of these Carnation Crafts circles dies. You'll see these come out a lot because I use them loads, because they're a really good layering circle set because they're very fine, so the gaps between the dies are really nice and slim. So it's good for creating circles of whatever size you want, because there's always going to be one the size that you can use, and good for creating like frames whichever width you want, that kind of thing. So this one you can see is nearly 8 centimeters, and I've cut that out of the front of my card. And then I've used these two, cut out some gold foil sheet. So I just taped the two together and ran them through my die cutting machine like that to create this gold frame. So the first thing I'm going to do on this, and the reason that I'm doing it first, is so that if I mess it up, I'm not ruining my whole card. I can just start again and I've not ruined any other work. I stamped my sentiment, and I'm going to use that birthday wishes again. I'm going to use my Memento ink. So then this piece of paper just measures slightly smaller than my card front. So it's the one that's kind of a mottled blue on this side. It's got this beautiful pattern on this side. I'm going to glue that inside my card, and so the circle will show through blue and this pattern will be on the inside. But before I do that, I just want to do some stamping on it. I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm just going to lightly draw around that circle so that I know where my stamping is going to be. So you'll be glad to know that I'm filming this on a different day, so I've gone and found this Derwent Soft Art Eraser. I'm just going to, you might have seen I've got a bit of extra pencil on there. So I want to stamp some flowers inside here. So because I've got this circle as a guide, I can see what's going to show inside my circle. Clearly didn't clean that properly since last time I used it. So I'm going to stamp this flower here. And then I'm going to stamp some different flowers. It doesn't matter if they stamp over each other because we're going to cover over all of the flowers in a second anyway. So don't worry about stamping over each flower. And don't worry about coming over the circle either, because that will be hidden by our card. So I'm going to pop this one up here and it's going to go straight over the other flower, but like I said, it doesn't matter. And because that stem's not long enough to come to the bottom of the circle, I'm just going to use my micro pigment ink pen just to extend that out. And let's stamp another one of those at the side as well. So now I'm going to take a spare piece of basic white cardstock and I'm going to stamp each of the flowers that I've stamped on there. So I'll start with this one. I'll need that 3 times because I've got 3 of those. Now I've got the same colours that I used for the last card, so I'm going to use the dragon fruit for this. And then I'm going to use the Spectra Green. Actually 2 sets of leaves will be plenty because this one you can't see the leaves. And then I'm going to use Blueprint for the flower centres. And then I'm going to cut them out. So magically, here are some flowers I created earlier. And these are so like tiny and delicate. I'm going to pop them through my Xyron Creator Sticker machine because that just makes handling these little tiny pieces so much easier. So you have to make sure they go in so that the coloured bit is facing up. And obviously if you don't have one of these, you can always just use glue. If you think that you might want to use one of these, then I'll see if I can find a link to it below. I've got some extra ones here that are from other flowers in the set, so I'll leave them out for now. And you can see I'm just poking them in, and then I'm just pulling this so that it gives me a bit more space here, and then I'm poking some more in. And with the really tiny bits, I'm just poking them in with the pencil. So it just helps them get caught up in the glue bit. So now that all those are in, I'm just going to pull them through. You can see now I've got all these things, and it'll be sticker. So I'm just going to rub this, and rubbing it means that the excess sticky goes on this plastic bit instead of just hanging around. And then I'm going to take the top off this plastic bit. You can see I've got a couple of bits that have gone through the wrong way, but most of them have gone through okay. Sometimes tricky to get those teeny tiny bits in the right way. Then I'm going to use my Tombow glue just to add some glue to here. And I'm going to make sure this is the right way up here. Then when I close it, I've got this. So this is where I need the bigger sticker maker, because I wish I had a sticker maker that could make a sticker out of this. I do a bigger one, I just don't have it. Might have to be on my wish list because it would be really useful. I'm just going to stick my gold frame around here, and then I can stick my stickers over the flowers that are on my piece of paper. And you see that just makes it so much easier not to bother with wet glue on all these teeny tiny bits. It makes it much easier just to kind of lift them off and stick them on. And this is what I mean about it doesn't matter where we've stamped over each other, because we're just going to pop these over the top so it won't look a mess then. And then these really tiny leaves, I'm just not going to worry about putting stuff on. I'm just going to colour. I'm just doing that in the Spectra Green. And then I've just got this little gold bee, which I've had lying around for ages. I think it might be an old Stampin' Up embellishment. I'm just going to add that on with a glue dot. But you could add on any kind of gold embellishment, or you could stamp a butterfly, or just leave it as it is. I think that just gives an extra little added touch to the card. And that's that card finished. So then for my final card, I've got this piece of black cardstock, which is 4.5 by 2 3/4 inches. And then this piece is just 1/8 of an inch smaller either way. And then I've got a basic white card blank as well. That's just an A6 card blank, the same size as the one we used before. And I want to stamp flowers all across the front of this piece. Apart from very top, I'm just going to put this birthday wishes. So let's just stamp the birthday wishes up here. And you can see this W hasn't stamped quite as I'd want it, but rather than throw it away, I'm just going to fill that in with my pen. So I'm just going to bring in this scrap piece of paper just to stamp on, because we're going to be stamping off the bottom as well. So I'm just going to stamp some of these flowers along. And what I want to do, because I'm going to create like a whole bed of flowers, I want to create some masks because I want to mask off the flowers as I'm stamping them. So I'm going to stamp this onto my masking sheet as well. So this is the Sticks to masking sheet, but whatever masking sheet you've got on hand will be fine, or you can use post-it notes. I do prefer the masking sheet because it does stick all over. To be fair, it's relatively inexpensive. I'll link to the Sticks to one below in case you don't have any. It is really good stuff, I use it a lot. I've stamped that and cut it out. Now I'm just going to add that over the top of the one that I've just stamped. And then I can stamp this one next to it. It doesn't matter if it's going to overlap it. And then I've got some other ones that I've already cut out here. So I'm just going to make sure that that's dry before I put mask over it. Then I'm going to stamp this one just here. I'm going to stamp another one of those down here. I don't need to cover that one because I'm not going to stamp anything higher than that. I will cover up the lower one. And then I'm going to go back with this one, which I think kind of looks like a daisy. And then in this corner, I'm not going to stamp anymore, so I'm going to take this mask off here. And I'm going to reuse that over here. And I'm just going to continue doing this all the way along. I can reuse my masks as I go. So now that they're all stamped, I can take off the rest of my masks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the masks on this sheet. And I like to keep my masks with the stamp set that they correspond with, because that means that next time I want to use them, I don't have to make new masks. I can just use the ones I've already got. So then I'm going to use these same colours that I've been using through the whole video, just to colour in these flowers. Now I've got this piece of paper from the pack that's the same size as my card front, so I'm just going to glue that onto my card front. I'm just going to glue this piece onto my black piece. Now I'm going to use double-sided foam pads to pop that up off my card. So then there's that card finished. And I can bring in my other two cards. And those are just some really beautiful kind of delicate stamps that I've used to make these three cards for the magazine. As I said at the beginning, these stamps actually come free with the magazine, as well as the dies and the paper and the embossing folders that I showed you. So you get loads for free, and I'll link to that magazine below along with all the other products that I've used, so that you can have a go at these and make some of your own cards too, because there's so much in there and we've barely touched on it. We've only really used the flower stamps and a little bit of paper. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you've enjoyed making these cards with me. If you did, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future projects. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got new videos available. All of the products that I've used for today's projects are listed in the description below, and I'd really appreciate it if you use the links that I've got there if you're going to shop for any of the products. They're affiliate links, which means that I get a small commission for anything that you buy through clicking my links, and that helps me to keep my channel going, and it goes towards the products that I purchase to make my cards and other projects. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.